8 years ago today, I officially said I quit to my 9 to 5. Like, I called my boss. I was too scared to do it in person, but I called her after she left for the day because I was still contemplating, is today the day? Is today the day? And I finally just said, yes, today is the day. I'm going to quit my 9 to 5 because the journey to get here has just been too long. I felt like I was just getting rejected left and right with all of my tries to salvage what was left at my job, at my 9 to 5, just because the unknown was just too scary. But everything was pointing to get the hell out of that place. And I'm so grateful that I did, because fast forward to 8 years today, here we are talking about this journey. I started off saying that it was single-handedly the best decision I had ever made for my adult self at that time in my life. Hi, my name is Lily, like the flower, but you can also call me Faya or Faya Lilz, or Lilz, Lil, whatever comes naturally. I have so many nicknames, I've lost count at this point, but Faya Lilz is this channel, my brand. Fearless individuality yields abundant healing. And Lilz is just short for my name, Lillian. So that's a little backstory with that. I got the nickname Faya for my promoting days. I go back and forth whether or not I want to drop it or not, but since making it an acronym, I've decided to just keep it, uphold it, live by it, and promote it through this channel. So here we go. 8 years ago, I said I quit to my 9 to 5 for so many reasons. So many reasons. If you haven't caught on by now, I am self-employed, thank God, for the last 8 years. And in 2018, I was feeling at that point fed up. I just didn't know how to get out of my situation. And as you would have it, God and life made a way. It was a very intense way that God had to yank me out of that job, because if that hadn't have happened, where I got some serious family news and I was kind of just, my back was against the wall, I would have probably still be there, or severely depressed, or just completely lost. And prior to making that official on February 27th, 2018, for 2 years, I was going back and forth. Okay, this is going to be the year I quit. This is going to be the day. This is going to be the month. And I just was so indecisive. I was so scared. I was waiting for the perfect right moment. And there really wasn't ever the perfect or right moment. But I will say it was always on God's time. And had I not taken at least 2 years to work on myself, and it's always around my milestone birthdays. So I quit when I was 33. They call it the Jesus year, the year of major transformation. And that's really what happened, because I was eventually going to turn 34 on the month that I officially left that place. But prior to that, if you fast forward a few years back, I know I'm kind of bouncing between 8 years and the last decade, but bear with me, because I want to share these parts of it and give you guys the honest, real behind the scenes of what I thought I was going to be doing after I quit my job. So 10 years prior, I would say right when I turned 30, that year, like the 2014 year, again, milestones. Prior to that, I was partying for every birthday. Every birthday was like a production. If you were friends with me back then, you knew every single year where we were going to start the month. It was either a Giants game or at a bar. Anyway, fast forward to my 30th birthday. I said, I don't want to do any of that. I am done with the party life. I am over it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired on my birthday. I just want to be chill and low key. I had also ruptured my Achilles. So again, God was trying to take me out of a situation. God had to yank me out of a situation, because I was going through some things around that age as well that I wasn't listening to. I wasn't listening to the warning signs or whatnot. So boom, Achilles gone. Now I have to sit still. And it ended up being one of the best birthday years and celebrations, because there were multiple still, even though I wasn't at the club or partying or whatnot. It still ended up being one of the better birthdays, considering I was in a boot and a cast for majority of it. It still was a good time. But through those transformational thoughts, the common theme was change. I'm changing. I can't go another decade drowning myself every weekend in the party life. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I'm 41 today, and I still want to go to the parties and clubs and bars, and I'm sober, but there's something about just being in that environment to dance, but with the right people, it's even better. And then there's the opportunity to travel. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So after I got healed from the Achilles rupture, I had to learn how to re-walk. I had to learn how to walk again, basically. And something about that journey and now having to be extra careful woke me up, basically. And I said, okay, things have got to change. I'm not liking this situation at all. So I'm going to start working on myself. I started changing my habits. I started going out a little less until it became a lot less. I started reading books. I started listening to podcasts that weren't just, and this was before podcasts and everyone had a mic in their videos. This was before entrepreneurs were even a niche on social media. It was so hard to find stories of people documenting their journeys or sharing tips. And a big reason why I started my YouTube channel as well is because it just didn't exist a decade ago, at least not at this capacity and in this oversaturated market. But back then I was just fiending for any bit of information of people that quit their jobs. Like, how do I do this? What do I do? How do I prepare for this? And the common theme, once again, was money. A lot of people did it with the support of having a savings or just some sort of backup plan, another job, anything, right? They side hustled. They did anything to just survive. And I said, okay, well, that sounds scary. I currently don't really have much of a savings at the moment, but I can work my way to that and start just rebuilding my life. And now I'm in my 30s. So I felt like in my 30s that I was supposed to have it all together back then. And I was doing my best to like make it look better than it actually was. But at the time, my car was repossessed and I was getting a check, but I wasn't treating it right. So I had to relearn how to spend money and pay off credit cards and things of that nature. And it was all that cleanup work that accumulated and compounded over time to where anytime I did step out, anytime I did go outside and have fun or hang out with people, it ended up just being this terrible night out, like arguing, fighting, or spending too much money and then not remembering it. So it was just a lot of tension and anger and ugliness that kept happening. And there were a couple of moments where I remember being in Vegas and being shoved by Trey Songz's bodyguard. I didn't even know that was him in the hallway. I literally turned the corner because I was looking for my friends, and I happened to land in front of his bodyguard, and his bodyguard shoved me. And I'm just like, what the hell was that? We end up, I think, leaving, and I was just like annoyed the whole weekend, just not happy. Then fast forward again to a trip in LA, and this is where things were starting to kick up. This is now 2017, and I remember being in LA. People I was with got into an altercation. I tried to go split it up and break it up and like push her away. I get hit in the eye. My contact pops out. And then I get kicked out. And I wasn't even the one fighting. So it was moments like that where I was thinking like, okay, I was already in a bit of a situation prior to my Achilles rupturing. I don't want to have to go through that again. is history tells me this is going to get worse before it gets better. And it was that trip where I was thinking like, okay, I have to quit my job. I'm going to cut my hair. I had really long hair. And I'm just going to do this thing. I don't know what I'm going to do. But by this point, I had saved up enough money to last me at least through the summer of 2018. I knew 2018 was going to be the year. I just didn't know what day or month or time. And fast forward as the year progressed, the end of 2017, stuff just fell apart. And all of those negatives started to add up. And I was like, okay, my social life is falling apart. My job is falling apart. I need to change something drastically. Then as life would have it, I got some very intense news about some family members. And that was just like the moment everything clicked. Like, oh my gosh, if they're not going to be okay, I need to get away from this job ASAP. And I'd never quit a job at that point. I'd been laid off. And I knew that if I didn't do something sooner, they were probably going to fire me just because the way I was not showing up. I was late. I was barely just present those last few months. So I tell them what's going on in my family, and they're like, okay, well, just write us a proposal. I write the proposal, and they deny it all. It was weird. Like, they were willing to give me money, but they weren't willing to allow me to leave my desk because of optics, because the market was shifting, business was slow for them. They needed the office to look busier than it actually was when people came in. And people were not coming in, I'll tell you that much. And even if they did, there was this big old wall blocking the entire office. Anyway, we don't have to get into the nitty gritty of it all. What I'm getting at is the excuses they were giving me was just all pointing in the direction of they don't even want me here. So if they don't want me here, I guess I just have to get up and go. But financially, I was doing the math. I was like, okay, a few more months isn't going to hurt. It's going to only help me. But I'm not going to be here on my birthday month any longer because I don't want to work here anymore. So April 1st, 2018 is going to be my cutoff date. And that's exactly what happened. And at that point, I was thinking, okay, I could probably just quit. And thankfully, throughout that time, I'd gotten an amazing work opportunity to become self-employed, which also validated my decision and also confirmed my decision that I'm making the right choice at this point in my life. I had quit drinking at that time, cut off a lot of people in my life, or they cut me off, and I was just like, it's part of the game. We're just going to roll with it. And I also was saying to myself, I think this is our opportunity to start YouTube and take it serious. And that's the part I don't really talk about because fast forward 8 years later, this channel didn't really go anywhere. But fast forward to today, I think I understand YouTube more than I ever have in my life. And it's finally starting to click, which is why in my business page where I talked about the 7 lessons I learned, it's like, you're not going to learn until you actually do it. And when I quit my job, my plan in my head was, I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber. I'm going to become this big content creator. And this is before the word influencer even existed. This is before TikTok even existed, before podcasts really were big. And again, before everyone had a mic. And I had all these visions and these plans, but I was terrible at executing them. And it's so crazy because back then I had my social life was so social that now in comparison, it's like, dang, like my life now is kind of quote unquote boring, but in the best way. I don't mean boring and like, I don't like it. It's just things have changed. But I just was too scared to put up the camera back then. And the people around me kind of made fun of me about it. And I just didn't feel like including them in it. I didn't know how to be disciplined or structured either. So I was, without even realizing, self-sabotaging that journey. But if you go back to 2018, 2019, even through the pandemic, I still was posting vlogs. A lot of them just didn't really take off the way I thought they would. But 3 years into my journey, I did start my business page. And I started to see some traction. I started to gain some attention there. But it wasn't the channel I wanted to work. I really didn't. I was like, I don't want to pop off on my business channel. That's boring. That's not cool. I want to be Fire Lilz. I want Fire Life to pop off, right? And I sold merch. Like, this is one of my old merch t-shirts from my brand, Fire Life. I sold hoodies, crew necks, t-shirts, tank tops. It was a moment. It was a movement. And I really thought Fire Life and Fire, the brand, was going to be what was going to be the jackpot when I quit my job. And even during the pandemic, when I was doing the whole merch line, and I even got certified through Complex and Parsons. I took a course on fashion and streetwear. Not to say that that can't happen, but in those moments when I thought, oh, this is going to be it. I'm going to quit my business of real estate and I'm going to run Fire Life. That's going to be the move. Like, every business course, every business cohort I ever took, I'd say, oh, I work in real estate, but I also do this. And everyone was like, well, you can't do both. You can't do both. And I'm getting itchy just talking about it, because in my mind, I was like, yes, I can. Yes, I can. But then life and bills would get in the way, to the point where I thought, well, because it's not making money, I'm just going to stop it. I'm going to take a break, and I'm just going to be focused on getting to the bag and healing, honestly, because I was also grieving a lot of life loss. So much was happening at that moment. The grief was just starting to really weigh on me. And then the pandemic hit, isolation, my drinking. I started drinking again. It was just a mess. I was a mess. I was a mess. So I wasn't in a place mentally or emotionally to even understand what it was like to truly run a business, because at that point I felt like just giving up. I felt like content is just not for me on what I thought was going to be the brand to take off. So ultimately, my dreams of becoming this famous vlogger, content creator, kind of got crushed by my own inconsistencies, the narratives and the stories and the limiting beliefs I had in my head. So I just became really inconsistent with this channel. But through the pandemic, I ended up hiring a business coach. And that was probably the second best decision I could have made for my career after quitting my job, was asking for help, because I just couldn't do it alone. I was at a breaking point where I knew I still wanted to be self-employed. I knew I still wanted to be in business. I just didn't know what I was going to do. The merch didn't work out. My YouTube is not taking off. All I know is real estate at this point, but I'm not happy with what I'm doing for the work, because I'd been doing it at that point for 15 plus years. And I was getting burnt out. The pandemic did a number on me. Even catching, C-19 changed my whole perspective on life. And after losing my grandma, that changed my perspective on work and the value of work, and how much of my self-worth and value I was putting into a job and a job title, and being self-employed and being my own boss. Like, that stuff doesn't matter if you're not doing work that's, like, if I'm not taking care of the money and I'm not doing work that fulfills me, I'm just wasting my life, right? So I had to ask for help, and I hired a business coach, and I'm thinking she's going to tell me tips and tricks on how to be a better real estate transaction coordinator. No, far from that. I had no idea what a coach did for me, would do for you or your business. I thought she was just going to tell me what to do. I go do it. I report back, and then rinse and repeat. No. And prior to that, I'd never been in therapy. outside of when I was forced to go to therapy when I was like 5 years old because I didn't talk in school because I had selective mutism. But that's a whole conversation for another day. So at this point, now I'm working with a coach on a weekly basis, and I'm paying a lot of money. I paid $1,000 a month. Oh, I'm getting itchy again, just talking about how much I spent on coaching, but it was worth it. It was worth it. I was spending $1,000 a month on coaching, and it wasn't just helping me in my business. It was helping me internally, mentally, emotionally to connect with what it is I actually wanted to do. And it helped me to identify who I am in this real estate space and why every time I keep throwing it away, it keeps coming back. And it reminded me about my dreams of wanting to be a content creator and what that looks like, and rewriting and renewing that dream, but based on where I am today and the knowledge and awareness of who I am at that point. So I said, let's give this another go. Before I just quit real estate entirely and perhaps either start a new business or get a job, I did not know. I didn't have a plan. And I definitely did not have as much of a savings as I did when I quit the first time. So that's what was also kind of keeping me grounded and humbled, was the fact that, okay, we don't have our finances in order as good as we did before. And the income's is not coming in as much as it was before either. So we really have to have some humility, humbleness, and just clarity in this next decision and this next stage in life and career, because we're not getting any younger, but we also still, God willing, have a lot of time to figure this out. So it starts now. And this was about 2022, and now we're in 2026. That's crazy. It is crazy to believe that. It's crazy that we are in 2026, and I'm even saying that right now, because reminiscing about all of reminiscing about all that has happened in just 8 years. Again, I could talk hours about this stuff, and I'm just kind of giving you guys as many details as possible because I want to be upfront and honest with like how much money I spent to fix my life, Ilanya. And how this journey has not been linear. Like the first year, I had a lot of 5-figure months, and that was the most money I'd ever made in my life in a single month, week, quarter. And thank God I did when I did. But after my grandma passed away, I just lost my sense of connection to the work I was doing, and my definition of joy changed, how I want to spend my time, and the people I want to help. And that's where my journey with the coaching came into play, because I still had this burning desire to do content. I just didn't know how I was going to show up. So again, posting sporadically on this channel, but then realizing there's something to my other channel, Transaction Care, that is working. And I looked at it so black and white, meaning when I post on YouTube, I have to meet all the criteria in order to make money. But that wasn't the case. I just had to keep posting. And I didn't realize, and I was still learning how to be an entrepreneur through all of this, because I'd only worked at a 9-to-5. Being self-employed, but then having a career and / job is totally different from being an entrepreneur. They're two different lanes that eventually need to merge. And I'll talk more about the entrepreneurial journey on my business channel, because it's a lot. I mean, I'll talk about it here too, but I just wasn't good at business. As much as I loved it and enjoyed it and still love and enjoy it, I wasn't good at it because I wasn't taking the time to get better at it, hence hiring the coach. And then eventually I would get into therapy, starting to journal more, adding God and faith back into my life, reading books, listening to more informative podcasts, but most importantly, taking action. And one of the most impactful books I ever read was The 12-Week Year. I talk about this book a lot or I have talked about that book a lot over the course of the years, because it changed how I managed my time. And that was something I was not good at, is time management. And when you're a business owner, you have to be good at time management. You have to be good at having discipline, good time management skills, communication skills, something I'm still working on to this day, because Lord knows, I do not like confrontation, but I've gotten better at confronting things quicker than just not. Again, a conversation for a whole nother day. So this journey of being self-employed and thinking it was going to go in one direction, and then it didn't, but it ended up happening in a way that I just didn't imagine or didn't think was possible, just goes to show me that there's so much I don't know about life, but as long as I show up, I will still see fruits of that labor. And if something's not for me, I will get signs that this isn't working. You're going to get yanked or pushed by life, literally and figuratively. But when it came to posting on my other YouTube channel, Transaction Care, I realized that you don't have to meet the thresholds to make this a business. And I still get to post content. I still get to help people. And now the work I did working with a coach, going to therapy, changing my habits once again in this new season of my life, because now in my mind, I'm like, I'm approaching 40 now. 40. What the heck? I got to start changing my life again. You know, we all go through seasons. And the more I studied on how to be a better business owner, entrepreneur, solopreneur, because I'm doing this all still alone. I'd had assistance here and there, but nothing really panned out because I wasn't fully formed in my journey as a business owner. And essentially, I realized that the other channel was a lead generator. Meaning, when people watch, they contact me to either work with me, work for me. And at first I was getting a lot of people wanting to work for me, but I wasn't hiring. So I realized, what am I saying in my videos? Like, am I giving off like, hey, come work with me? And a lot of people were saying that, oh, you just come off so confidently, like you're doing great in business. And I was like, really? Because the bank account says something totally different. But I love creating content, which is why I'm still talking on this episode. I have to check how much time we had. I started to just give more time to that channel, which eventually turned into a podcast, which eventually brought me back to coaching. I'd gotten certified as a life coach because I figured, okay, if I'm starting this journey of wanting to help people and give back to people in my industry and teach them what I do and coach them through the process, let me at least get certified and feel official, like a whistle. And I did just that. I spent about $8,000, which I'm still paying off to this day, and got back in debt. We didn't even talk about my teeth journey. I know I've been promising this teeth journey video for so long, but that was a different level of trauma that I'm still working through, that I didn't know it at the time that it could be beneficial to someone else getting their teeth done. But that was around 2022, again, when all the transformations and transitions and mindset shifts were happening again. Again, something physical, like a physical transformation then turns into an emotional, mental, spiritual, internal transformation. So, sirens. At that time, I was changing physically. My other grandma had passed away. So I just felt like, man, like I really got to just take myself more seriously and really devote time to learning the business and learning how to run a business and learning about what it is I want to do next, because I'm done with the transaction coordination. And I started to let go of people that either I was going through more physical transformations that I had even anticipated. I'm now back in debt after not being in any type of debt for almost a decade. And where my life was headed just wasn't the direction I thought it was going to go. So again, going through more physical transformations, I had to dig deep and fight for what it is and what it was I was planning to do next. And ultimately that led me to coaching and content creation, where I'm currently at in present time. And as you're building something new, I've learned that you're building from experience, not from nothing or from the ground up, when you've been doing something repeatedly for years, decades. And that attitude and mindset has helped me to be confident in the choices that I make. And knowing that, okay, it's not about the money, because the money will find me. It's more so, if I'm serious about doing something, I have to commit. And I realized, wow, I really have commitment issues. It doesn't mean I can't commit to things. I just don't know how to let go of them when it's served its purpose, or when I'm done with something. I don't know how to let go. I have attachment issues. I don't know how to let go. I think I commit, and then I think anyway. So, and self-employment, being self-employed and chasing certain dreams or goals, I've realized more recently that as long as I don't know, like the money will find you. I think the money will find you some way, somehow, as long as you're putting in the work. Those months or those weeks where I was just sitting back expecting things to happen in my favor were worthless. I don't know what I'm trying to say now. I feel like now I'm rambling, but yeah, now I want to redo this whole video. So if I post this and I'm saying this in real time, then I kept it. But if not, maybe I did a whole new video. So I hope this helps someone in their journey of being self-employed for 8 years. Throughout the years, I've done different things to help myself. I've made a lot of mistakes as well. I'm not perfect. I'm still recovering from certain choices I made and learning how to embrace maturity, embrace what they say, standing on business when I make a decision, when I let go, being obedient and surrendering to the whole process, and adding faith in God into the picture on a new level, plus sobriety. And, looking back 8 to 10 years ago, the people I was surrounded with, like 90% of them are not in my life. So that's a whole other element, is like the relationship aspect of things. Like people I either spent a lot of time with, worked with, hung out with, like those dynamics change. And when you make those big life-altering decisions, you also have to factor in, dang, like my relationships might change. Now, some relationships will be worth working on and keeping, and it's all about the communication. But when all signs are pointing towards this ain't working out, those are moments when you're really tested. When all the work that you work on inside, internally, in your journal, in your prayers, it's those moments that really test you and test your faith and test your they test your reactions, your healing. Am I really as patient as I say I am in my journals, or to God? And you also have to be mindful that when you pray for something, like for instance, if I pray for patience, like, God, please give me patience, God's not going to just sit and just make me the most patient, enduring person ever in the world. No, I'm going to have to practice patience. So God's going to probably send me a life experience, big or small, that's going to test my patience. And I'm either going to accept the test and do my best to pass the test, or I'm going to fail at it. And then another test is going to show up. And sometimes, a lot of those times when those tests were coming into my life, I either forgot I prayed about it, I didn't realize I was getting my prayers answered, or I'd fail so miserably, I'd be like, oh my gosh, please just let me try again. Just let me try again. So you just have to stay ready, so you ain't got to get ready. But ultimately, the prayers that I have prayed, I'm so grateful for just my relationship with God, period. I don't think I would have made it. I can't even talk. I don't even think I would have made it this far, getting to know myself or allowing myself to thrive in these spaces or in these moments, because you just can't do all of this alone. You really, 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 really can't. Whether it's a spiritual God or a physical coach that you meet on Zoom once a week, whatever the case may be, the only way I've survived this long being self-employed is my faith, being surrounded by people that support me and encourage me. And even when they get on my nerves, it's like, I know they mean well. But also learning how to trust myself in this process. Learning how to accept the challenges. Take those risks. Take action. I get in seasons where I'm just like consuming. And then I start to feel like I hit a wall. I feel like I've learned too much, or I've learned to the point where I've made myself dizzy and confused, and I feel like, well, I'm supposed to do things this way. I'm supposed to do my podcast this way. I'm supposed to do YouTube this way. I'm supposed to have this type of business. I'm supposed to be making this type of money. And then when I realize all of those outside voices or sources or content creators, they're at their finish line. I'm running my own race. I could take tips and bits from them, but I can't compare what they're doing to what I'm doing or what I'm supposed to be doing. Because you and I could be doing the same exact thing, but have different purpose and have a different purpose in it, or a different audience that we need to reach. So it's been a cool 8 years, and I feel like I'm still just now scratching the surface and things, and I'm just grateful I documented the process along the way and how I've been feeling, what I've been doing. You guys see I travel a lot, go to concerts, sporting events. I like to play sports. I like to try new hobbies and foods and puzzles and all sorts of things. Fashion, even through clothes and shoes, music, and finding connection through trying new things, continuing to explore and expand my comfort zone and seeing where that takes me. So stay tuned. 40B40 is loading. It's probably not going to look the same way it did in the past, but I'm going to do it. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. If you watched all of this, wow, much respects and props to you. Leave a comment if you made it this far, and stay tuned for more. I appreciate you for watching, listening. Subscribe. Please. I want to get to 1,000 followers by my birthday. Is that so hard to ask for? Is that too much to ask for? Anyway, it's your girl, Lilz. Hit that subscribe button. Fearless individuality yields abundant healing. And remember, life ain't perfect, but it is a blessing. See ya.